Welcome back to The Wrap, everybody. I'm Tyler Griever. That's Mark Ennis, Andy Sweeney from ESPN Louisville. Guys, I think this is 2 years in a row that Louisville fans had to feel about as good about their chances of beating Clemson as maybe they ever could. This time, though, it doesn't amount to anything, and maybe you're worried about Malik Cunningham as much as anything else, as the Cardinals lose to the Tigers on the road in a game where the defense made some plays, but the offense just couldn't get going.
Yeah, it's a weird feeling after the game. The immediate post-game show was really tame. There weren't tons of callers. I didn't feel like there was anything grand to really draw from it. You know, sometimes you play somebody good and it's like they were not ready, or, man, that's like super encouraging. This was just sort of, they played and Clemson just kind of beat them. Clemson played way better than last week.
It was just a game.
And Louisville played really just fine.
Do you guys want an hour to go like
regroup
before we have takes?
It was just like nothing special happened. I feel like they look like they belonged out there, which against really, really good teams that has not. But it still wasn't enough.
The Louisville defense belonged.
They held up just fine.
Yeah, I mean, they held up. They did enough, right? In a game like that, they continually were giving, especially in the second half, opportunity after opportunity. Number two, the Malik injury doesn't come back in the second half, and it all ties into his other injuries that have accumulated. And then how healthy was he going into this game in the first place? We were sitting here or standing here a week ago wondering about the rumors out there with Malik. Right. They put fans and media to rest with, he's okay, he'll be fine, he's out there, not a big deal. And obviously he was not good. Number one is, and Ennis can go on and on, is the officiating. I mean, in Louisville fans' mind, whether it doesn't matter what,
Scott Satterfield mentioned it.
I mean, 100%. It's reality that one of the main takeaways from this game was missed call after missed call, and Louisville fans were ready for it, so they were predisposed to already think that the rest were going to be against them. And then it not only lived up to expectation, but I don't know, Ennis, it probably exceeded it.
Yeah, well, and it's the agony of it happening here is like they don't need help. Like beating Clemson at Clemson is going to be hard enough as it is. There's a reason they have like a 39-game home winning streak or whatever it is. Some of not every call is the worst thing in the world, and there were calls on Louisville that they missed too. But sometimes when you have a situation where it's like Louisville's defense is just trying to hold on while the offense tries to kind of get something going, and you had one drive in particular where it's 10-7, and Clemson has the ball, and they fumble on the first play of the drive. It bounces off a Louisville defender, and Clemson gets it back. And they drive all the way down, and you have the horrible pass interference call. Kept that drive alive. They get a touchdown at 17-7. And it just felt like a different game. And look, Louisville's offense was not ready for this one, and they were not, it was the first time in a while that they have been manhandled up front. Couldn't protect Malik or Brock Doman. And I think I don't mind them trying, but it really didn't look like they had a plan for what to do if he went out. And it should have felt like it was more likely that he would leave that game with an injury than they planned like it to me.
Even if he didn't leave the game, to me, he just never looked fully comfortable at
all.
Obvious. And even if it's not your throwing hand, it's still key because you have to have that mesh point down. You have to be able to at least give the illusion that Malik can take off and run every now and then. But that leads me into this question. Is it more beneficial, and we don't know the full extent of what's going on with Malik yet. He left with a shoulder injury. He already had a hand injury. Is it more beneficial to just say, look, Brock Doman, you're going to play against NC State. Malik needs a game to recover, and then we're going to reevaluate?
Yes. Just do it now and get everyone a week to sort of get their minds around when it's not going to be Malik. We have seen enough that the offense can do enough with Doman. In fact, I feel better about Doman even than I did after the Virginia game. He came in and did some nice things. The defense is good. Like, I don't think you're going to need a world-beating effort from your offense in these last two games.
Well, no, I think you can beat NC State with Malik or Brock Doman. I feel even better about that after watching NC State. And then Kentucky, Malik has had drama. It has not been good. I mean, let's just be honest. Malik has not been good. What's it? The last two times he's been benched at some point during the game. So again, Louisville running the ball, Louisville controlling the line of scrimmage, Louisville's defense. That's how you win the Kentucky game. You almost need, I don't want to say a game manager, okay, but Malik is a little more erratic, and sometimes that's in a very, very good way. That has helped UofL. But I think for the last three games, as I sat here last week, that you're going to lose Clemson. You can beat NC State dominate with whoever you have at quarterback. And now let's see what the Kentucky game looks like. And Louisville's going to be favored or close to it in a couple weeks.
Yeah, natural segue. Kentucky, I remember you saying before the Missouri game that if they lost to the Tigers, the wheels would fall off. I don't know how you phrase losing to Vanderbilt, because Vanderbilt snapped a 26-game SEC losing streak by coming into Lexington and beating UK. Another bad offensive performance. The defense could not hold up. I think you got to start again with the offense in this one, in that it's just not getting any better for Kentucky.
Well, listen, the defense was great on first and second down, third down, 11-17, and Vanderbilt had their way. I mean, the entire way. So yes, the defense was fine, but at the very end, when you needed them, they didn't stand up. Offense is. I mean, Kentucky football is a mess. Sometimes you got to hit rock bottom. And Mark Stoops had to be playing Lynn Bowden at quarterback to say, you know what, I need to go out. I'm going to get Liam Cohen. I'm going to act like I want to play big boy offensive football. And they just can't do that. You can't bring Rich Gangarello back. I mean, you lose to Vanderbilt. You should have lost to Missouri. You lose at home to South Carolina. It's a low where you have to make changes. It's a low where it cannot be status quo going into next season. Kentucky football went from about 2 years where they were the king of the castle, right? They all got new contracts, and everyone's getting new contracts, and it's great, right? Everyone's feeling great. You have a great recruiting class, and they've hit quickly. They have hit an iceberg.
We started the year with having a huge hubbub about Mark Stoops and John Calipari about a football school versus a basketball school, and now
and saying at the time that he won that PR battle.
It's silly.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, Cal was the bad guy.
And now you can look at the season. You got 2 games left. One of them is against Georgia, so sorry about it. But
write that off.
The good football from Kentucky so far this year is decidedly in the minority. Like, it is the exception.
100%.
They didn't play well in almost any of these games.
Second half Mississippi State.
Northern Illinois.
Second half Florida. Those are the times you look at them.
You know, we gave them the benefit. We gave them the benefit of the doubt early in the year in some of those games that were still wins, but they were not pretty in the games they really should have dominated. And now I think this is arguably the worst loss of Mark Stoops' tenure.
It is.
There was sincere talk about Atlanta and maybe being able to get Georgia in a year with all the turnover on defense and all that. You got first-round quarterback. I mean, if Will Levis really is a first-round quarterback, this is a profound waste.
He had a telling quote after the game where he was like, look, there's a difference between being outplayed and then guys just straight up not executing. He didn't use those exact words, but it was along those lines. And I thought that was pretty telling, because I think there's some built-up frustration there at some point, because he's the guy taking the hits and being asked to do all this work that's just not possible.
Again, you could not go status quo. You just into next year. They have to figure out from the top to the bottom what they want to do on offense.
This has been like Stoops' cross to bear at Kentucky, where he has kind of year in, year out now gotten good physical players, good players within in the box on both sides of the ball. And then it's been, what do I want to be offensively? And he wanted to be an air raid guy, and then he wanted to be a ground and pound guy, and then he sort of settled on this inside-outside zone, Rams kind of thing. And now this isn't working. And yeah, you're right. Not only do you have to go find another offensive coordinator, I'd be shocked if they didn't. But then you get whatever philosophy that is. Stoops got to pick another one. You got to get a quarterback, and you can do it. But it's
a lot.
It's a lot bigger undertaking and a lot more of a change than I think people felt like we've reached a new level. What can you go from here?
Let's switch to the basketball side of things, which is a much better conversation for Kentucky fans, because I think so far they're showing off a lot of depth, a lot of talent. You go to the first win against Howard, and Casey Wallace almost has a triple-double. And then Severe Wheeler comes back for the Duquesne game and posts a double-double. Oscar Tshiebwe hasn't played at all, but it seems like you were seeing a lot of different pieces, including the young guys, for them step up and answer the call in 2 early games. And they got Michigan State in the Champions Classic on Tuesday.
Yeah, I think the Champions Classic game has changed a little bit. I didn't think too much of Michigan State. All the basketball bennies, as Calipari would say, before the season, and they should have beat Gonzaga. You mentioned a couple guys, Reeves, C.J. Frederick, being able to shoot the basketball is something Calipari has not had. I mean, 2 guys that you're hoping are shooting up over 40%. You bring back Wheeler. The Wheeler and Cason Wallace discussion is one we had last week. We'll see how that works out. Wheeler's numbers are going to be good when they have the offensive firepower that they have. But the Oscar conversation, to me, is is looming over.
Well, I'm wondering if he plays Tuesday.
I mean, it's looming over this team. I would be surprised. I mean, pregame, Gibbons came out and said he has not been taking any sort of hits in practice. It's all been very light work. Calipari at the beginning made it sound like it was nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, and now we're a couple weeks longer, and now we mentioned, well, we got to see if there's going to be any swelling.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's said after the game. So Kentucky is fine right now and could take some losses here in the next few weeks if they don't have him. Now, again, you got it, Onyenzo. Fans love him. He's been
playing well.
He's been fantastic. There's no doubt about it. Toppin wasn't good the other night. I think he'll be close to a double-double. But it's all feel good. I'm not super worried, but I'm worried just a little bit about Oscar. It's not nothing.
He is a known quantity. So if I'm them, I'll get this run now for younger guys and other guys, knowing you can bring him back. Like, exactly.
Plug and play.
Yeah. So far, the SEC, like some of those other thought of elite teams in the SEC, have not impressed. Arkansas got dog walk to start the season. Tennessee made 6 2-point shots today in a loss to Colorado.
Yeah, not good.
The SEC might not be quite the murderer's row.
Yeah.
That we thought at least the top might be. So if I'm Kentucky, take my time. You're going to be fine.
The biggest thing for me with them is that they're showing they at least have some options. Like if option A doesn't work out, like if Severe's not shooting well one game, then maybe you let Cason Wallace kind of run things a little bit more. He's been extremely impressive to me, and you talked about Reeves and Frederick. Kelton Grady had to carry too much of a sharpshooting load last year. Now you got 2 guys to be able to carry that. That's a huge development.
It's an abundance of riches. No, I mean, this is why this team right now, if you say Oscar comes back and everyone stays healthy and everything, no, they are Final Four bust. They are,
They
striving for number 9.
And few of his teams, even his best ones, have had multiple outside shooter guys. Like, they've sort of been the guy.
Yeah.
But if they've got multiples, it makes his life a whole lot easier.
Absolutely. On the complete opposite end of this kind of discussion is Louisville men's basketball right now. There's 2 losses to go over. You have the Bellarmine loss, which Louisville did not play well in the first half really at all. They step up the defensive intensity in the second half, lose by 1 point. Wright State game, L. Ellis scores a career-high 29 points, but then he turns over the ball 8 times as well, and I think they just gave a win away in that Wright State game. And the defense was just non-existent in the paint. So I say all of that to ask you, where do we even start right now with these 2 games?
At the bottom. I mean, if you think about this team, I think the most, the fact that there are struggles early on, not surprising to anyone. The fact that they're choppy and turmoil and questions and all this stuff, not a surprise. I just think it's the degree to which like the how low the starting point actually was. What almost everyone was hoping for is that the biggest problem was actually kind of psychological and mood, and motivational and all that, and it's not. And that by Kenny Payne coming in and just sort of caring and having his assistant coaches,
what Satterfield did,
who are yes, that's exactly that you would get 2019 Louisville football out of this, and that's not what it is. And you've got a coach learning how to be a head coach for the first time. You got a coach learning about players in their second game that counts together, and a staff all learning, what they're going to be together until they are just so overwhelmingly talented that you can sort of work through these things without there being consequences. This is the sort of thing that can happen.
What is going to stand out for this team? Right now, it's nothing.
Well, it's all
right
bad.
now,
it's
nothing
good. Nothing
yeah,
good.
nothing good.
Stuff, right?
Where is Sidney Curry? Wheeler comes in, 2 fouls in 1 minute. It's Kenny Payne. It's the big man whisperer. You can't give up easy dunks.
Yeah.
You
The
can't give
interior
up-
against Wright State was really bad.
They have not.
Very bad.
I mean, we haven't got to the part of the schedule where they face athletic players.
Yeah.
Huntley Hatfield has nice numbers, but he hasn't stood out. Curry has been bad. L. Ellis has stood out. I think Mike James.
Jalen Withers.
Absolutely. I think Mike James is going to be a nice player for this team, but I mean, it is going to be a very fatiguing season for guys who have already been through a fatiguing season or seasons for other reasons with Chris Mack. It's going to be civil war with Louisville fans battling on the people that wanted expectations this year, the people that are saying you got to give Kenny Payne more and more time. I mean, it might be divisive if they continue to lose games.
But there's multiple things that can be true with that to me, because I think you can all give Kenny Payne some leeway to build what he wants to build. But 2 things come to mind here. And with Wright State, when they get the ball off that turnover, you have fouls to give in that situation. And after the game, when he said he's not thinking about fouling, look, that's not the way to go about that.
Sounds like a rookie head coach.
Who did he get that from?
You're not wrong.
Louisville hired John Callan.
Like on the one hand,
next to him.
I didn't want to sound like trolling, so I'm so glad that you said it first. But like, he is not a Rick Pitino disciple where he's obsessed with every ridiculous detail of every game. Like a brand new head coach in game number 2 only learns by sort of getting his knuckles wrapped, for it.
100%. The other thing that I think you can evaluate is, again, the roster construction, because I know Hersey Miller showed a flash or two relieving L. Ellis. L. Ellis, there's too much on his plate, in my opinion, because you saw the good of it in some of the buckets he made late, but you also saw the bad of it because the decision-making where you feel like you got to do everything, it forces you to make some bad decisions by trying to do too much, and that's exactly what happened against Wright State.
What's interesting about L. Ellis is, I feel like with Louisville basketball, on one side we have all the things that we write about that some of the guys aren't ready to play right now. All the stuff we got wrong was the entire front court.
Well, let's talk about that. The thought coming into the year was, don't know what they're going to do in the backcourt. Wings, you got a lot of them. Somebody's going to kind of emerge. But the strength of the team, and you'll build it out from there, is those 3 guys that play in the 4 and 5, Roosevelt Wheeler, Sidney Curry, and Hunley Hatfield. I think Hunley Hatfield is coming along. But what the heck is happening with Sidney Curry?
It's biggest story.
He's not scoring, and he's not under control. He's not aggressive in the way you'd like to see him, and shows, to me, no interest whatsoever in affecting the game any other way. He is not a shot blocking threat. He is not a rebounding threat. He's not a good defender on the pick and roll. I'm afraid last year he just stood out because he was the only guy really going hard.
You said this. Yep.
And it's starting to bear out that way.
And there's 3. I mean, at the end of the year, it was 3 games, like you mentioned. Someone has to score 18 a game. It's the Monte Ellis. I've said that over and over again. Someone had to score 18 points a game, and they get all the love. And maybe that's what he did down towards the end, playing all the minutes. I didn't think you were going to get this All-American Sidney Curry that was going to be 20 points a game and double-doubles and everything. But not this. It was natural to say, okay, well, if there's a guy on the team that's going to reap the benefits immediately of Kenny Payne, it would be him. To me, there's not fouling. There's the roster construct, which is we're spot on. There's L. Ellis playing too much. There's all these different things. But my goodness, Sidney Curry giving you nothing was not in the formula. Kenny Payne has an early decision here with one of his captains on what do I do with Sidney Curry.
To put a bow on it, this is a team that cannot really afford to get nothing from anybody. Like, everybody has at least, at a minimum, has to give maximum effort and prove to be contributing some role on this team. And so far, they have too many guys who are just not meeting the challenge right now. It's a completely different story for Louisville women's basketball. They're off to a strong start, and for that, we bring in Alexis Cubitt and Chrissy Banta. So here they are now, Chrissy Banta making her debut on the Wrap. Alexis Cubitt decided to come back. I'm shocked, honestly. It must have, you like us. We are flattered by that. And if you're a Louisville women's basketball fan, you have to like what you have seen so far. The Cards are 3-0 with the latest win coming over Belmont. This was a battle, 75-70. Belmont's a good program, went to the NCAA tournament last year, but this is a really tough early test for the Cards that I think could benefit them.
Yeah, I agree with that. We kind of knew going in, if you pay any attention to the landscape in women's basketball, you kind of know going in that Belmont was going to be a little bit of a challenge. They took Tennessee to the brink last season in the NCAA tournament. Looking at the schedule, you think, oh, Belmont, that's probably going to be a cupcake for a Louisville team.
Yeah.
Typically, it's not. They're sneaky, and they proved that yesterday.
We're expecting Belmont to make 3-pointers. They're going to do all these shots and stuff, but those girls were physical. Those young women were very, very physical. I don't know that Louisville was really expecting something like that. So early on, I think maybe it took some adjustment to, just the pressure they were able to get on the ball. But I mean, they made the right adjustments. They made their free throws, and that's all she wrote.
Absolutely. And Haley Van Lith dropped 25 points.
That doesn't hurt either.
She was incredible yesterday.
Yeah, she's really just balling out, and I don't think it's anything new that anybody around here hasn't seen. I mean, in the fourth quarter, she took over a little bit, hit some tough shots, but I like this game for them in that the first two were pretty, Louisville overwhelms an opponent at the Yum Center. You know how that's going to go.
And you see Jeff making a lot of adjustments to lineups lineups the first couple of games to kind of see what works and see what's going to gel the best for him.
Their defense comes through again. They're forcing a lot of turnovers through 3 games, and even on the game tying, what would have been the tying possession for Belmont if they could have gotten a 3. Peyton Verhulst was all over it. Everybody had their assignments nailed down, so it was really a good test for them to start. You mentioned some of the lineup adjustments that you see through these first couple of games. What really stands out to you through 3 wins so far? For me, it is the continued dominance on defense in terms of the amount of turnovers they're forcing, but there's plenty of other things that stand out as well.
Yeah, for me, standing out this year, Peyton is a big one for me.
Yeah.
We kind of knew with her coming in last year that she was going to be a solid addition to the roster.
Sure.
And last year she spent a lot of time kind of proving herself because she was so young and there was so much other talent on
a lot of people you got to beat out for minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So this year she's earned a lot more of those minutes and she's really able to just kind of come out and shine. Peyton's bringing a lot to this team. She's tough.
When you look at yesterday, I feel like that was a welcome to the season game for her.
Yes, absolutely.
Because, I mean, she had that last steal, there at the end, knocked down 2 free throws, but she also had some pretty big shots earlier on in the game, too. So, yeah, definitely, like what you're seeing from her. And then just overall, they have so many girls who can score. Like, these young women know what to do with the ball when they get it. I mean, even it seemed like Cece, they tried to get her the ball a little more.
It was a big shot she hit before halftime.
She had a couple big threes.
She gets the ball in her hands at that three-point line. It's probably going in.
And that's different than what Chelsea Hall was doing last year. I think Chelsea showed she could shoot some mid-range here and there, but she wasn't as much of an effective threat as Cece is from the three-point line. And we've talked about all this without even mentioning that Olivia Cochran seems to have really taken, we knew she could take another step and that she frankly needs to for this team. But a birthday double-double, 13 points, 13 rebounds against Belmont, caps off a really strong 3-game debut for her.
Yeah, and if you have listened to myself or Dave Skoll at all, especially Dave the last couple of years, talk about Olivia Cochran, this is who we all knew she could be.
Right.
She's finally getting to play her natural position. So we're seeing a lot more out of Olivia, and we're seeing her really thrive out there in that natural forward position.
She's just so strong, too.
She's incredibly strong.
She may not be, the 6'4", 6'3", whatever, but I mean, I feel like she can go body with anybody because she's solid. She stands her ground there in the paint. I mean, she had a couple spin moves that got called for travel, but
I don't want to square up with her.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, she's just, if you get it to her in the paint, I mean, I feel like, it's going to go in 9 times out of 10.
I think she's a better athlete than she's given credit for, too. She beats a lot of, you mentioned the size difference in height on occasion. I think she's able to beat a lot of those women off the dribble with some of her speed and athleticism. Outside of Olivia, another one that stands out for me is Nyla Harris has been, wow. For a freshman, I think she has shown, we just talked about that combo of size and speed. She's pushing the ball up the floor a lot, and there's always that one freshman, kind of like Peyton last year, who demands to get on the court with how they look, and I think so far she looks like that one.
Yeah, you're right. Nyla is definitely demanding her minutes and demanding everybody notice that she's out there on the court. And she's one we knew would be good coming in.
Right.
But she's doing a lot more than I expected as a freshman.
Just to your point, she's just so scrappy. You know what I mean? I remember Jeff before the season talked about, I don't have to tell her to go hard. She just does it. I have to kind of tell her to back up a little bit because she's just wanting to be great and just trying so hard. She's earning that time. And, I mean, scoring, defending, pretty much anything you would want from a freshman. Of course, some things will come with time just in adjusting to the game, but I think right now she's ahead of the curve for sure.
And the last thing for me with this team through 3 games is that I don't even think we've seen the full impact of what Morgan Jones can be for Louisville basketball. She's shown some flashes. She got in some foul trouble against Belmont and didn't play as much. There's going to be some games where Morgan Jones could drop 20, 25 points.
Oh, yeah.
We've seen her do it.
Yeah, exactly.
We have seen her do it.
Yes.
And I still often, I'm a huge fan of having Morgan Jones in a Louisville uniform this year. We know what Morgan Jones can do. Morgan Jones coming to this roster this year is going to be a huge impact down the road. She knows what to expect out of all of these ACC teams. And the ACC should not be taken lightly this year.
No, I don't think it can be year in and year out. No, and Morgan, I think I asked Jeff about, kind of some limited minutes against Belmont. It was foul trouble, but it was also, I think it's still an adjustment coming into the program and knowing what Jeff Walz expects. I don't think it's a secret to anyone that he's very demanding as a coach. I still don't believe him when he says he's not going to be demanding of the refs. He's trying to show a softer side. I don't believe that. I don't believe that yet. I'm not going to lie. But
TBD.
We'll see how that plays out in the rest of this non-conference schedule. They have some more challenges before getting to conference play. But for now, not a whole lot to complain about if you're a Louisville fan, as they are 3-0. We will keep doing this throughout the season. You can catch Chrissy Bantle on ESPN Louisville for coverage throughout the year. And, of course, Alexis Cupid's coverage at the Courier-Journal. That's going to do it for this edition of The Wrap. For Mark Ennis, Andy Sweeney, Chrissy Banta, and Alexis Cupid, I'm Tyler Griever. Thanks for joining us.